Hey, hi everyone, welcome to LangChain AI with Sai YouTube channel. So today we are going to talk about the new topic, or I can say a new agentic framework, that is AWS Strands-Agent. I made a video on multiple agentic framework, LangGraph, LangChain, Autogen. So if you miss those videos, I would encourage please go and watch those videos after you completing this video. Though there is no prerequisite you to complete those and come here, but I'll encourage you to please watch. It will definitely give some learning edge um, to your AML journey. Also, recently I have completed a video on Amazon uh, QCLI, so please watch that. Okay, so let's come to the topic, that is AWS Strands Agent. 2 months back, AWS made this SDK as an open source. I mean, open source, it means that now anyone can definitely use, but can do the customization. Definitely, you need to require to raise the PR to get your feature added, and then you can add it, you can do the customization. So it's a very nice tool, very nice, rather than I can say SDK in the agentic AI. So as you can see, the many companies now started building their own agents, at least the popular clouds, like Google has Google SDK, then Azure has their own agentic framework, say Autogen or the Semantic Kernel, and similarly now AWS come with the AWS Strands agent and the Bedrock agent. Now there is a difference between the Bedrock agent and the Strands agent. Definitely, Bedrock agent is more concentrated towards the AWS environment to use their AWS services seamlessly, but the Strands is more than that. Means you can use with the other models as well, with the other open source model as well, and you can deploy your model anywhere locally or any other cloud services for that sake. So let's start it. As I mentioned, it is a main core of this AWS Strands agent is very simple to use. The main core of this framework is to building the AI agent, and one of the thing is that you can accomplish your agentic development with the few line of codes. So it's a developer focus agentic framework, I can say. So while building this agent, AWS makes sure that the code or the development should be developer focus. They make sure that when any developer wants to build any agentic application, these strands make their development life easy than complex. So I can say that is the hello agentic application. Second most important thing, they make sure that they are using the reasoning and the other capabilities of the large language model. So their development, rather than building many things from scratch, they mostly depending on the model or the reasoning part, and they try to adopt all the latest features in their development. The, for example, A2A protocol or MCP, they already integrated in the strand. So when you write anything related to the MCP or the A2A protocol, you just require few line of code while building this. Definitely, we will look into the things, everything in practically, maybe not in today's session, but in upcoming session, I'll definitely include those tutorial ads also. Let's move to the next topic and try to understand what are the key features. As I mentioned, it's a lightweight. And when I say lightweight, means it's very simple to use with the few line of code. You can few line of code, you can customize your application. The second most important is a production ready, means it has a feature of observability, tracing. You can integrate this AWS Strand agent with the third party provider like LangFuse or Arise, right? or any other Ragas framework for the evaluation purpose, right? And you can deploy on-premise or the cloud as well. So I can say the Strand-Agent provided all the required things or all other supported things so that you can deploy your model into the, or rather than model, I can say your agentic application in production very easily. As I mentioned earlier, it's a model agnostic, provider agnostic. You can use AWS model, or you can go ahead with any other model if you want. So there is no as such a binding with the AWS. I mean to say, though it's been built by AWS, but you can use any other model uh, for the agentic development. Second, I think this is one of the most feature that Strand has built as except apart from the other agentic framework, that they have built more powerful tools, and currently the Strand agents has supported 20 plus tool in their development in the Strands agent, I mean to say. So it means you no need to write, for example, a calculator. Okay, so you can just import that calculator and you can use that functionality as a tool in your applications. Even you can write your customized function and make them as a tool with the just decorator as a @ tool. So this is one of the good things. So they have some built-in tools, but you can also write your customized tool in Strands. Again, one of the another thing is that it's a multi-agent capabilities. So it means uh, it supports all level of multi-agent like Swarm intelligent, graph level of multi-agents, or the workflow level of multi-agents. So it supports whatever your architecture of your agents. You can definitely use that architecture or build this architecture using the Strands. Next is the safety and security. So they make sure that they protect your application, using these safety and security concerns or the measurements. So they taken care all these things within a Strands agent. Now these are the core components of the Strand agent. As I mentioned earlier, the first component, it's a model. So the Strand agent give almost all their capability, or rather than I can say they use the model capability fully than writing anything from scratch, or rather than depending on some line of codes. So they fully use the model capability. This is the first core component. Second, tools. So the tools is nothing but the function that agent can use to interact with the external systems. Okay, so this is the second most important, and the third one is the prompt. So the prompt is one of the important components because that will helps the agent or define the agent what tasks to do, right? So the Strand follows the model driven approach. Okay, so developer has to specify what models, what tools, and what prompt is required. Within these three components, LLM handles everything. Okay, so the agentic application handles everything. So in which model, that is LLM, gives the capability of reasoning and the planning, right? Tools gives the capability to interact with the external system, and the prompt gives the guided action what to do or what not to do. Okay, so these are the three important components in the AWS Strands architecture. Now there is a one terminology that is called as a agent loop. So what is agent loop? Agent loop is the core process by which Strand agent process the input and makes the decision and generate the response. For example, let's say there is a user input. Okay, so what happens whenever there is a user input? So generally we call a user input as a prompt. It goes to the agent. Now what happens? The agent uses the LLM capability to understand the prompt. Now once they understand the prompt, it invoke the model. So this is the agent, the strand agent, I mean to say. This is a prompt, goes to the agent, model invocation is there, model understand the what prompt, get the response, and then again check whether the tools is required or not, and then using the tool it gives the result and go back to the user. So this is called as a loop. This is called as a agentic loop. This is dotted square mentioned as a loop. So strand is a itself capable to understand that what user wants to say. Definitely it's backed by the model. Accordingly it will select the tool and go back to the and gives the answer to the user. So this process AWS says this is the loop. Okay, try to find out the answer unless until you will not get the expected result. Okay, so this is the line of code, just a demo line of code. Don't worry, we will going to see in a practice how it use, but the strand gives the these two capabilities, that agents and tool. So you can just mention what is your tool and add the decorators as a tool. So your my tool function act as a tool. Just need to specify agent as a, so you create the agent as an object and passing the information of tool, and you just going to pass the prompt. Now everything whatever I have explained with the just few line of code, so line 1 2 3 4 5, okay, with the 5 line of code whole process will execute. And this is what the one of the important things of the Strands-Agent SDK. With only 5 line of code, whole lot of things is taken care by the Strands-Agent. Now let's move to the next, that is the, now the question comes, definitely the questions comes in every mind who is going to watch and maybe excited too, that then what is the difference between the strand agent and the other agentic popular framework. So I tried my best. So let's go through one by one. The first is the LangGraph or LangChain. If you can see in the graph, the LangChain is the most popular used agentic framework in the developer community, then followed by the Autogen, then Crew AI, and then Llama. So not Crew AI, but Llama Index, and some of the people also using Crew AI. Semantic Kernel is most towards used by the core development people who is in the working the cloud parts, and then AWS Strands is slowly now coming up. So let's try to understand the difference first. The LangChain and the LangGraph is mostly use the capability to build the modular components, right? When I talk about the LangChain, while the LangGraph is also building the agentic, but the graph-based manner, where you mention the node and the edges. Node may act as an agent and the or any other things, and the edges connecting to any other node. So it's a graph-based way of building the agentic framework. Next is the Autogen. It's again another open source framework, and it's very famous for the multi-agent AI applications, and it works very well when you want a distributed agentic framework or a scalable framework, right? And it's developed by the Microsoft. Third is the QAI. I can say it's a low code agentic framework built on top of the LangChain. And one of the good part is that with the few line of code, you can also build the QAI. But as per the observation, as per the experiences, QAI works very well for the, you can say, kind of at the small project, and it works fantastic. Okay, but if you want to go in scalable, QAI failed to do this. Okay, but it works very well for the role based kind of architecture. Okay, so where you have multiple crews and multiple roles. Okay, so orchestration framework wise it works very well, but with the small kind of application. Llama Index, I think they have their very exact focus that wherever there is a retrieval kind of task, wherever there is a you want to retrieve a data from a database or the kind of vector database I mean to say, then Llama Index works very well for this kind of data ingestion, data retrieval process, and works very well this kind of application. And the next one is the Semantic Kernel. Again, this framework developed and built by the Microsoft, and it's again open SDK. So they wanted allow the developer to combine AI model with the conventional programming language. Okay, so if I'm not wrong, the semantic kernel works can also use the C sharp kind of language to build the agentic applications. Okay, so this is what I can say, the popular agentic framework and where they much popular I have explained, right? Where this agentic framework works very well in which kind of domain or applications. Now let's go and try to understand the comparison. So if when I compare the strands with the LangGraph, as I mentioned, LangGraph works very well at the graph-based kind of architecture, and it also supports the state management system. I already explained, have given lot of good explanation about the state management. So I would encourage to watch my LangGraph series. Our Strands-Agent offers a simple model-driven approach with and the native AWS integration. So this is a plus point uh, with the strands when we compare with the LangGraph. Now, when we compare this strand with the Autogen literally focus on the multi-agentic system and the complex interaction, while Strand also provide the multi-agentic system, but with the simplicity, with the few line of code, you can build the same multi-agentic system using the Strand. So this is one additional things with the Strand. When you compare the strands with the CrewAI, CrewAI is more role-based architecture, while the Strands is a more flexible approach to building your agentic application, and it supports the many models. So I can say it's a model provider agnostic, stronger model provider agnostic. So still AWS Strands is on the roadmap, it's still making a popularity, but yeah, with few days we can see it makes a big impact, as currently the current version of AWS Strands is 0.3. Okay, however the other agentic frameworks been developed and built since more than a year now. So yeah, in coming days we see where the AWS Strands goes. Now the key difference, as I mentioned, I already touch upon these points, that it's a code first approach, right? Model provider agnostic means you can build the model, it supports the Amazon Bedrock, Anthropic Cloud, then Meta Llama, Olama, and many other. Please look at the documentation, you will get the idea. An extensive tool ecosystem, so they have supported few pre-built tools you can use as it is, or you can just write a function and add the decorator, that function work as a tools. And multi-agent collaboration to solve your complex problem through peer-to-peer or supervisor-led workflow. So as I mentioned that Strands has given 3 to 4 type of multi-agentic system. One is a workflow based, second is a swarm based, okay, and the third is the graph based. So you can use any way of building the multi-agentic application system. So that much is it is a flexible. Okay, now I think I have already talked about this, so I don't think so it is required that model provider support. So let's, I hope now you understand what is AWS Strands and what is their capability and what is the difference between the AWS Strands and any other agentic framework. So let's start the um, quick um, demo how one can use the AWS Strand. I already added the Anthropic API key in my system. So as I don't have access to the AWS environment, so I'm using the Anthropic Cloud API key to do this task. So let's first start with the basic uh, code. Okay, how one can use the AWS Strand, and then you can do it on your own and explore this. So for that, first of all, we need to install the Strand agent. Okay, so let me say pip install Strands agent. Okay, so let's execute it. Okay, it like some spelling mistake. Let me run it again. Great. So we have now we are installing the Strands agent. Great. So let's wait for a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, we'll try to copy. We'll try to execute the another commands. So this is a Strand agent, but if we want to use a tool package, for the tool package we need to install the another library called as a Strands Agents Space Tools. Okay, so it's already installed. So let's go for the another things. Okay, nice. Okay, the following project is important in this runtime. You must restart. Okay, no worries. Let's restart it again. Okay, yeah. So we have restarted the session. Now let's try to use the strands now. So from strands, we are going to import two things, that is agent and the tool. Okay, again I'm going to use the Anthropic model. So I say strands dot models import Anthropic. Great. Anthropic model, not Anthropic. Why not coming? The strands dot models, or it would come to. Okay, so we are getting some error. So I think path is changed now. Let's try this topic, and then we have topic model. Great. So now we have Anthropic model, right? So let's go to the next step, and we define our model. Let's say not model. We are going to say Anthropic model. Now there are a few things that we need to specify here. Okay, uh, before we are proceeding. So what model ID we need to specify here. Okay, so something called as a arguments. So client arguments there. So in the client argument, we are going to specify the API key and API key already at is os.anthropic. We already said, right? Okay, or okay, we already said there. So we say os.get um the model ID. Let's open the documentation. the documentation part just to check our code. So if you go to the model provider and say Anthropic, you'll be okay. I think we need to install this. Must be there. Okay, so we have this the client argument, then we require a model ID, right? So let me copy this, okay, just for a quick things and see what. Okay, the API key is os dot get. Fine. So we have this thing. We have Claude 7. Let's try to run. We are getting some here. No module name. Okay, the thing correct. We need to install this. Okay, that's the reason we were getting some error earlier. But see, the documentation helps us helping here. So I would suggest please follow the documentation because these are the currently ongoing development. So it may happen that there are many too frequent changes are there in the code, the package when you are importing. Earlier there was something different when I was trying, but now it changed. So please try to check the documentation if your code is not working so that we'll use the correct line of code, right? I hope so. Now it's saying requirement already and downloading. Okay, so this is something I've added probably. Let's try to execute now. So what we are getting that OS is not defined. So let's put OS. Fine. Okay, great. So code executed. Okay, let's follow the documentation itself then. Okay, so we are not going to use any tools as of now, but yeah. So okay, or let's say use the tools. Okay. So we have let's first without try tool we are going to say. So we define the model. Now we wanted to use the agent. Okay, so let's say agent agent is there. Okay, and let's ask some question. A question maybe it's something related to the um, who is the provider, or probably I can say um, what is Gen AI. It's a simple question. Okay, now once we receive this agent we see if there is a response. Okay, so one second, I think we one mistake, we need to specify model here. Okay, because if you are going with the something default, okay, then natively if let's say if you have a if you are not mentioning anything in the model, okay, then it try to get the um, model from their AWS Bedrock. Okay, but as we are not using AWS Bedrock, then we need to specify the model explicitly. Otherwise, if you are using AWS Bedrock, then they try to get this all the information from your environment variables. Okay, so let's say model, but then my model name is the okay. Model is a model. Fine. True. And now we say response is equal to agent, and here we are going to ask the question. Sorry, what is okay? And now once this is done, we are going to print the response. Great. What error we are getting? Could not resolve authentication expected API. Okay, so I think API key are try to fix it. Okay, oh, this clock has not run in it. Okay. Or maybe we have restarted, right? So maybe because of that something. not working, but let's try to rerun it up. Great. Now we solved that error and now we got some nice response, right? So Gen AI or generative intelligence refers to the AI system and something like that. Great, nice. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the strands provided some inbuilt tool, right? So as you can see in the documentation, it provides the something called as a calculator. Okay, so how we can use that? So let me copy this, paste it here. Okay, and we are going to add, or this is not required now. Okay, because we already specify that part. So let's that. This is also not required. So let's delete that and say from strands tools. Okay, and we are going to import something called as a calculator. Fine. Now when you mention the you want to use the tool, now if you can just see, there are multiple tools are available, like A2A tool is available, batch is available, current time is available, file read and write, generate image is available. So lot of tools they already is already available. Okay, so you can just play with this tool. Just make sure that while using these tools you may require some kind of configurations. Okay, so please make sure that, for example, if you're using the retrieve, so when you use retrieve, it is currently work with the AWS bedrock. Okay, AWS knowledge base, so you need to configure the AWS knowledge base at the environment level, because when you say retrieve, so what it tries to say, do that based on the query, it try to retrieve the data from the Amazon knowledge base vector database. Okay, so these kind of things I'm giving. So please follow the documentation if you want to use any other tool. This is my recommendation. Great. So let's use the calculator, and I need to add this is the tools. I need to mention the calculator. Fine. So let's change the question and try to give something a bit complex. 2 into 3 plus 6 divided by 3. Okay. What answer you will get? Okay, great. Oh, nice. See how the pretty answer they are giving, right? So generally, if you are aware that so 2 into 3 is, let's first write a 6, and then 3 2s are 6, so 6 plus 2 8. Great. So and they also giving breaking down all the results. Now let me tell you one thing, that whenever you are using any kind of agentic based framework, you need to unpack the response as per the model. But the strands giving this ability, you no need to do anything. We will help you to unpack the things and giving in the correct. And it also specify which tool it is using. Okay, which tool it is using. It is using something called as a calculator. Now this is something the tools they are providing. What about the something that you want to use a customize things, right? For example, if you want to use your custom tool, okay, so how you can do this? So for example, let's say if they are given, okay, so they are giving something called as a weather forecast. Okay, um, weather forecast things. Okay, so let's use this as a function. Okay, so let me copy this. Let's say this is what, oh sorry, front board. Let me copy this. Okay, let's say this is my custom function of weather forecast. Okay, I just need to add the something called as a tool as a decorator. So what I'm saying that, let's say I want to, so here we need to specify doc string get weather forecast for the city, This is the argument that we are going to pass, and we are just saying the weather forecast for the cities for the next 3 days, whatever. Okay, let's say this is what my custom function, and I want to use this as a tool. Again, you need to specify this as a tool in your when you are initializing the agent class. Okay, so let me say, come on, yeah, my model is equal to model. Now in this is a part of Gemini, is giving automated code, but this is not the only tool I'm using. I also use calculator earlier, so I wanted to use this as a calculator, and the weather forecast was the is the another tool. So I said what is the weather forecast for the Toronto. Okay, so by default I'm passing 3 here, so it will say give me the output weather forecast for the Toronto for the next 3 days. Okay, so let me execute this and see what output we get. Check, that's a great, fantastic. See, I passed the two tools, but the agent itself that clever to understand which agent to use. So here is saying that the weather forecast for Toronto for next 3 days, and it is giving some output, right? It is giving some output based on the again LLM capability, right? Now let's ask some complex question which require calculator as well. Okay, so say what is weather forecast for, let's say, Mumbai city in next 5 days. Okay, we are going to add the number, and what will be the 10 10 what's say 10%. Okay, I got the icon. 10 percentage of 100. Okay, so this time I'm asking the two questions which require to use two different tools, and let's see how Strand works here. Okay, so now it is going to the tool 2, that is weather forecast. So invalid expression, simplify expression could not pass the 10%, but it is giving the calculator. Okay, it failed, then it is saying calculator, so it's giving answer 10, and next time again it is giving weather forecast for next 5 days. So it understand the Mumbai will experience typical weather patterns for this time for over next 5 days, and the forecast. Oh, this is nice. Now if you see, initially it got some error, some syntax error, then it fixed that error internally. Let me try the calculation again with the correct syntax. Okay, and it got the result. See, the 10% of 100 is 10, and great. So if you look at this Strand agent, it automatically understand, and even if fail, and this is called something called as a loop, right? If you look at the let me show these things, right? My presentation, where it is. Yeah, and as I mentioned, great, this is what called is agentic loop, right? So agent understand what is the question, go to the model, get the response, understand the tool, which tool is required, and it try to follow the tool, right? Now in my question I require two tools, okay, to complete the answer, and this loop is going on till it utilizes the tool completely, and not the tool until it doesn't get the correct method to solve this. As you can see in calculation it got some error, but it still went to that, understand what is the correct sentence, and then get the answer. And see the explanation, the explanation is very niche. It's or I can say it's very explainable. It gives everything, so that if you stuck anywhere or if you want to trace back in your production, you can do it very well without writing any explicit verbose stuff, or explicitly writing any additional log things or things, right? So this is what I like the Strand agent very well. I think I just write a couple of code and giving very explainable code, explainable output. I think you guys must have start using it. In my upcoming video, we will see more and more capability of strands. Otherwise, this video is going to be lengthy. But I hope this helpful to you to at least start playing with the AWS Strand agent. If you like this video, please thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. See you soon in the next video. Thank you.